Here's our warm-up. How do we start?
Lowest common denominator.
Yeah, we want to get common denominators. You can also take care of that negative if you want. I like to start them that way. It just takes care of things right up front. What is the common denominator going to be?
X plus 3 times X plus 2.
Yep, x plus 3 times x plus 2. All right, so I am going to write one rational expression with that common denominator. What do I have to do here to get the common denominator?
Multiply the x by x plus 2.
Yeah, multiply by x plus 2. You have to distribute, so that's going to be x squared plus 2x. What do I multiply the back by? X plus 3, good. Don't forget you're distributing a negative 6. If you didn't take care of it earlier, make sure that you don't forget about that negative sign. So it looks something like this. You can combine like terms on the top. You get negative 4x. The other ones are just fine the way they are. Now, you can attempt to factor that. I don't know anything that multiplies to negative 18 but adds to negative 4. You could double distribute the bottom if you want, or you can just leave it like this. What are your questions? The question was, if it's factorable and you don't factor it as it points off, it depends. If it's factorable and it simplifies, so if one of the factors was like an x plus 2 and you didn't do it, then you'd probably lose just a point, but it's not a huge deal. If it doesn't simplify, I really don't care what form it's in. Alright, here is the last lesson we're doing for Chapter 9. That means that the next time I see you, you are taking a homework check. The time after that, we will review, and the time after that is a test. I know. It's all coming.
When is the next Friday?
Wednesday.
What?
Wednesday.
When's the test?
The next park test is May 5th and 6th. So we have a while to that. The next English park is coming up, but I'm not positive. Today what we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk about solving rational equations, So like any equation, there will be an equal sign. We're trying to find out the value for x that makes it true. There are a few ways to do this. I'm going to show you the way that I believe is the easiest. If you want to research other ways to do it, you can. If you want me to personally show you other ways, I can. But this is the way that I find to be the best way to do it. All right, so here is our first problem. There are only 6 examples today. That gives you a little bit of an indicator of how long they take. Usually the less examples, the longer each problem is. Just like yesterday, if there's a minus sign, I'm going to take care of it right away. So I'm going to make that a negative 2 and turn it into a plus. Now, the trick here is to decide what the LCD would be if you were getting common denominators.
X times x plus 1.
Yeah, x times x plus 1. So, here's the trick. You're going to multiply both sides by x times x plus 1. Now, you're multiplying the numerators. You're not actually getting common denominators. We're not multiplying top and bottom by that. We're multiplying just the numerators and both sides. Remember, if you do something to both sides of an equation, it's a legal move. So we're not doing anything invalid here. Don't actually distribute, though, until you see what cancels. So if I multiply this first term by x times x plus 1, what's going to happen? The x's will cancel, right? So I can get rid of those x's. So now I'm left with 3 times x plus 1. Well, that's 3x plus 3 when you distribute the 3. Notice the denominator is now gone. Let's jump to this guy. What happens here? The x plus 1s will cancel. You're left with a negative 2 and an x. What happens on the right side of our equal sign? The x's cancel. You could distribute the 4 now. You have 4x plus 4. That's the trick. The magical trick that gets rid of your denominators is to multiply everything by what the least common denominator would be if you were getting common denominators. If you get to this step and you still have a fraction anywhere in the problem, you did it wrong. Okay? After the first step, you should have no more rational expressions. It should be an equation that's fairly easy to solve. We can get like terms on the left side. 3x minus 2x is x. I'm going to get my x's together by subtracting x from each side. I'm also going to move that plus 4 by subtracting 4 from each side. After I do all that, I get negative 1 equals 3x. So, of course, x equals negative 1/3. What questions do you have on this? So the first thing you want to do is decide what the common denominator would be. X plus 3, good. You can also do that negative thing just to make sure that you keep the negative with the 5. It doesn't matter too much on this particular problem. But yes, I need to multiply everything by x plus 3. What happens in the first term? Yeah, they cancel out. The x plus 3's are gone. You just have a 2x. Now, there was no denominator with that negative 5, so nothing is going to cancel, but you can distribute negative 5. So you get negative 5x minus 15. And then what is it going to equal? 1, because the x plus 3's are gone. Good. From here, it's pretty simple. Just get your x's together. Add that 15. And then divide by your negative 3. So x equals negative 16/3. Questions? All right, here's number 3. Yep, the common denominator is going to be x times x plus 2. I'm going to take care of that minus by making it a plus and turning the 1 into a negative. Then I'm going to multiply through by x times x plus 2. So you can see that in your first term, the x's are going to cancel. You can distribute the 4. You get 4x plus 8. In the next term, the plus 2's are going to cancel. You get negative 1x. On the right side, the x's are gone. You got to cancel, or sorry, you have to distribute that 2. So you get 2x plus 4. From here, pretty simple. I am coming up with x equals negative 4. Any questions on how I got that? Okay, all the ones we've looked at leading up to this point only had one solution. You can see if you're a direction reader, which you should all be, it now says that we should get 2 solutions for each of these. Anytime you have an x squared, that's when you can get 2 solutions, so you should start seeing x squareds now after we do some simplifying. All right, we can take care of that negative if you'd like, or you can wait and deal with it later. I am going to factor the difference of squares so that I can see exactly what I need in my common denominator. I need an x plus 1 and I need an x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply everything by x plus 1, x minus 1. Now, there's not a special reason I wrote them like this. I just couldn't fit all of those on my slide. So if you're in a notebook, I would just write them like you've been writing them, x plus 1 times x minus 1 right next to each other. All right, those x minus 1's are gone. I'm going to have 5x times x plus 1. I'm going to wait and do my distributing in the next step, just because these are getting a little more complex. Nothing is going to simplify in that middle term with the negative 3. You can double distribute to take it back to x squared x squared minus 1 if you'd like, or you can wait and do that in the next step as well. And then the entire denominator and that LCD cancel there, and we're left with 2x plus 5. Alright, now I'm going to distribute. You can start to see I'm going to get some x squareds. When I distribute the 5x, I get 5x squared plus 5x. When I distribute the negative 3, I get negative 3x plus 3. The right side is still just 2x plus 5. Now, anytime you see an x squared and you're trying to solve, what should you do? Get them to cancel. I don't know how you're going to do that. Yeah, you want to do multiply add. To do multiply add, or to factor, you have to get everything to one side of the equal sign and set it equal to 0. Remember, we're using something called the zero product rule, so it has to be equal to 0. So I'm going to combine my x squareds. I get 2x squared. I need to get this x over here with the other x. So I'm going to subtract 2x. I get 3x. I also need to move this 5, so I'm going to subtract 5, and I get negative 2. Of course, that all equals 0. Any questions on that? Now, I couldn't quite fit all this factoring stuff in the slides, so I'm going to show you the MA stuff over here. This is all review, so this should not be anything new. But remember, we multiply first and last to get the M. It's negative 4. Middles are A. Anyone know what multiplies to negative 4 but adds to 3? 4 and negative 1. So you have an x plus 4. You have an x minus 1. But what do you have to divide by? 2. A lot of people forget that dividing by 2 step. That's why I just wanted to show you in detail how we get this. Order does not matter. You can see up there, I think it's written in a different order. The 2x minus 1 is in the front, the x plus 2 is in the back. It doesn't matter. Since it's multiplication, it's commutative. Alright, after you factor it, how do you solve? Set them both equal to 0. Good. When you set 2x minus 1 equals 0, you get a half. When you set x plus 2 equal to 0, you get negative 2. What are your questions on this one? All right, here's number 5. I need to start by factoring the denominator. Does anyone have a wild guess how that's going to factor? There's some hints, maybe. It actually factors to give you those factors. We can go through the process, though, if you're not comfortable with that. Multiply is negative 12. Add is negative 4. That's negative 6 and 2. So I will divide each of those by our lead coefficient, which is a 3 in this case. So this is x minus 2 and 3x plus 2. Before I rewrite that, though, I'm going to take care of that negative sign. So I'm distributing a negative to the 4x and to the negative 1 just to take care of that up front so I don't forget about it. And then I'm going to write that in factored form. Now it's very easy to see what your common denominator needs to be, right? We have x minus 2 and we have 3x plus 2. So I'm going to multiply through by x minus 2, 3x plus 2. I'm going to pause and let you guys catch up. Lots going on up there.
All right, so the denominator is going to cancel with the x minus 2. I'm not going to distribute just yet. There's going to be a lot to distribute on this one, so I'm just going to write it out and then distribute in the next step. The 3x plus 2 cancels. Here you're going to have to double distribute. Again, if you took care of that negative sign up front, it'll make things a little easier here. If not, you can deal with it. It'll just be a little more complicated sign-wise. This is going to equal 17x plus 4. Now I need to distribute the 2x. Now here I need to double distribute. They're both binomials, so I'm going to distribute the negative 4x first. That gives me negative 4x squared plus 8x. Then I'm going to distribute the positive 1. So that's plus x minus 2. And then, of course, nothing changes on the right. There's nothing over there to distribute. Everybody still with me? It's kind of I think this is the hardest one we look at today. Now I see x squared, so I know that I should be getting everything to one side of the equal sign, setting it equal to 0, and then factoring. So get your x squareds together. That gives you 2x squared. Get your x's together. You have 4 and 8, and then you have a minus 17, because you'll need to get that to the left side. That's going to give you negative 4x. What? Oh, did I miss one? Oh, this little guy right here. Okay, so you have 4 and 8. That's 12, 13, and then minus 17. That's how you get the negative 4. Sorry. And then negative 2 minus the 4 is where we get the negative 6. Now, normally we jump right into MA. There's a problem with that here. Does anyone see the problem? Yeah, everything's divisible by 2. Remember, MA does not work if there's a greatest common factor. So we need to pull a 2 out front. That'll leave us with x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals to 0. Now, normally we set each factor equal to 0. Will 2 ever equal 0? No, so you can actually just forget about that 2 right now. You can just solve the x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And there it is for you. So my multiply number is negative 3. My add number is negative 2. Anybody know? Yeah, negative 3, positive 1. We don't have a lead coefficient other than 1 here, so we don't need to go back and do that bottoms up step. We can just go ahead and solve each of those. They're both very easy to solve. You're going to get a positive 3 and a negative 1 here. What are your questions? All right, here's number 6. Number 6 easier than number 5, so if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, don't give up just yet. All right, first thing I'm going to do is take care of that negative, like I do all the time. What's my common denominator here going to be? X. So I'm going to multiply everything right and left by x. X times x is x squared. You're just going to be left with the minus 24 in our next term because those x's cancel. And then it's going to equal 5x. Again, this x squared is the indicator that we need to get everything equal to 0 and factor. So I'm going to subtract 5x from each side. And now it's just an MA. Multiplies to negative 24, adds to negative 5. Negative 8, positive 3. Good. So I'm going to have x minus 8, x plus 3. All right, two solutions are 8 and negative 3. Very good. Now, there are a few problems in your homework where it will give you a solution and it'll say, is it a solution? What's the easiest thing to do if they say, is this a solution? Plug it in and see if it works. I saw some students in my 7th hour trying to go through this whole process and just see if they get that same answer. That's fine. It's just a harder way to do it. So if it gives you this original problem and says, is 8 a solution? Just plug 8 in and see if it works. Don't go through the whole process if you don't need to. Any questions? All right, here you go. Next time I see you as a homework check, so make sure you get this homework done and let me know if you have any questions.